So much, Seshu, for taking time out and just speaking to me a little bit today about social media and a few things. And although you can't see me because of technical issues, the recording will show both of us, so that's always fun. But just tell me a little bit about your photo story and background, how you got into photography and what kind of work you do.
Well, first of all, Fusna, thank you so much for having me on the podcast.
On the show, say it.
Podcast, whatever it's called. Yeah, it is kind of weird that I can't see you, but I find the time. But I was drawn to photography over 12 years ago, 15 years ago almost. Back in college, I studied in Japan for a couple of years, and
wow.
On a whim, I didn't have a way of really. Put it bluntly, Japan's a very expensive country to party in, and right. I couldn't find myself spending that kind of cash to go hang out with buddies and get drunk and that kind of thing. And
that's funny.
And I thought, what can I do to explore this country where I'm spending a couple of years? What can I do for it? So a friend of mine said, hey, we have a photography club, which is very common in Japan, obviously, where in colleges you have clubs for everything. And
okay.
Photography club was where I got my start. I had photographed in high school as a yearbook photographer, but that was years before. And but Japan really sort of flipped the switch for me, and I said, this is interesting. I like doing this,
Right.
And it was an enjoyable experience where you photograph people you hardly know or don't know at all, and you strike up a conversation about who they are,
Mm-hmm.
And I think. When it comes down to it, in my heart, I'm still a storyteller. I just want to tell people stories,
mm-hmm.
whether it's by writing or by making images of their event.
I love that.
That's really what I want to do, and I think photography has made that possible for me to engage people.
Yeah.
And it's hard to believe because I know I'm on Twitter and I'm here over there, and I'm very active online, and I'm obviously speaking to you. But in high school, I was a very shy kid
mm-hmm.
who didn't know how to express himself, and I think photography was his passport.
Right.
It was go. It's just go. And I love that. And I still remember the first picture that I shot. And I processed it with black and white, obviously black film. It was exciting. I was like, wow, the leading lines and all this stuff that I didn't know anything about. It was just sort of, it all came together naturally. And I was like, I want to do this again tomorrow and again tomorrow and again tomorrow. And built up to a point where I was walking around Japan every day with the camera, I wasn't getting the right exposure sometimes.
Right.
It didn't matter. It was just sort of playtime, it was really, that's what I would probably tell people now is like, if you don't give yourself enough playtime in your photography,
so true,
you're screwing yourself.
So
seriously.
True.
Because you are not discovering what you can or cannot do.
You have to work on that and not on the day of a shoot, like,
no.
play with that. So what kind of photography do you do now?
Well, now, I segued from being in Japan. I found myself in journalism school, and I ended up studying documentary photography at an institution in Portland, Maine called the SALT Center for Documentary Studies, a wonderful place. And what happened was all of this, in terms of timing, my God, it all sort of came together with 2001, where things pretty much crumbled in the editorial field, and I was out of a job. So I was sort of really going from one freelance gig to another freelance gig, and it was tough. I'll be honest with you. And I said, well, back to Boston, and thankfully my family was there for me and took care of me and housed me, so I don't have to worry about that. And then, I managed to shake it off a bit, seemed to all work out. And then I met my wife and came down to Connecticut, found a job as an editor actually at ESPN.com. So I spent 5 years looking at lots and lots of images, wire images, AP images, everything just sort of coming right through all the games, getting familiarized with the sports that, love to watch every day. So, my entire shtick ended up sort of getting more into the online world, and working with being online so much more than I expected, and it made me sort of feel like I was in a cubicle, and I was in a cubicle, which I was at some point after 5 years decided, you know what, I really want to get out and meet people again. I did. I talked to my wife, and we made it happen, and I started going back to photographing weddings, and then more recently, to answer your question, finally, I'm doing more and more portraits in Avon, Simsbury, Farmington, the local towns right here.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about the Tiffinbox and how that got started and who's it for and how that's going.
Well, it got its start from me just trying to keep up with all the stuff that I was trying to find for my own business, and I figured if I could post it to a place where I could get to at any time and just check it out and go back to it. I mean, other people would be interested in it as well. So it started out on a truly selfish basis of me just trying to remember where I saw one link or the other. I mean, initially there was a long list of photographers, like a blog roll. Nobody does blog rolls anymore, but but back when I started, that was a big thing. And I was just finding these amazing photographers, and I was like, "Oh, cool! I gotta put them on my site, so I can always go back and check out their site." Gotcha. And then I learned about RSS readers and stuff like that, so I didn't have to even do that.
Right.
So I can always now go through Google Reader.
So it started with you just really wanting to keep things in one place, so you were doing research and stuff, and you figured you would share with others as well.
Exactly. Yeah, and it got to a point then where I was doing my business, trying to raise family, and then do the Tiffinbox thing, and I was like, I don't know if I can post every day. That's for sure.
Right.
That's really challenging, and I'm trying to get around that by inviting guest bloggers.
Right.
And the fact is, thanks to Google and other search engines, it's a win-win. The fact is, if you're a photographer and you have your own website and you post something on my site and you have a link back to your site, wow, everybody wins.
Exactly.
We're talking about photography, so
right.
And then that raises that entire industry up in the same way. Just sort of. So it's got a huge benefit for guest bloggers if they just sort of flip that switch in their head, because a lot of people think I've got to only post on my site, and that's a big mistake, because if you're only on your site, nobody's linking to you.
Right.
And this way, you link to yourself in a way.
Yeah.
And the site Tiffinbox itself is gonna, it's gonna be there forever, I hope. And the links are gonna only grow organically because of time. Because of one thing that Google likes about websites like Tiffinbox, because it's been around for the last almost 7 years, almost 8 years almost.
Wow, that's awesome. And of course, like you and I always chatting on Twitter, and I know you're like, out of the photographers I know, you're probably like top 3 in Twitter, just with consistency and every day. And I know that takes a lot of effort and work. So what are your views on Twitter today, or how has Twitter helped your business?
Well, Twitter, has. I love Twitter because it's such an incredible resource for photographers. I think if you just sort of spend the time and find and follow the right people, they're going to feed you just information that will help your business one way or the other. Mm-hmm. There are folks who get on Twitter and think it's all about telling people what you ate for lunch. That's fine.
Right.
If you do it in sort of do it infrequently. I mean, I talk about my lunch sometimes.
Right.
If I have a great lunch, hey, I want to tell people I had a great lunch.
Yeah, I mean, like I always see the times in Facebook that I get the most comments is always food and technology. Like anything technology related or news, and anything food related. Like you post a photo of a cupcake, whatever. And you don't want to annoy the person, like, hey, telling them your 5-day meal plan. But let's think of what really unites as human beings, Like it's just daily simple things. It's the weather, it's food, it's traffic, it's, vacation or whatnot. So
And I think it also helps to humanize you. You're not just this avatar that's spitting out links to you back to your own website, but
Right.
you're talking about daily things. Like I talk about my kids.
Right.
I talk about the fact that I'm having this crazy time with my general contractor trying to get done. And then I hear back from people saying, "Hey, yeah, I'm having the same issue or whatever."
Right. Yeah.
And it connects us, and it's a quick little back and forth, which I think we do on a natural, regular basis anyway.
Right.
When we get together, we talk.
Right.
And that's what I like about Twitter, is that it's so conversational. You asked me about whether it's brought me business. The fact is, having and creating these relationships online. The person I just talked to today to book their headshot session, for instance, came through a referral through Twitter in a way. I photographed him and his wife about a year, maybe 2 years ago.
Okay.
And he has a business now that creates business cards and promotional materials and things like that. And he said, "Hey, you should call Seshu for your headshots." And the fact is, I have my own, website for headshots, ConnecticutHeadshots.com, and it's #1 on Google for.
Of course, good SEO. Get the URL in.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, it helps that I'm posting things that are useful for people who are looking for headshots. So I mean, I think in terms of being found and being able to tell people, "Hey, just if you want information about headshots, go here."
Awesome. So, any tips for using Twitter? I think everyone has joined Twitter already, but anything like recently that you've seen, or any changes that you would recommend doing, or how much time spending on there, etc.?
Spending, I tell you, I'm on it right now. I'm looking at.
Love it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie about it, because I want to know what's going on.
You're one of those. You are one of those. You are connected 24/7.
Making the time, finding and following the right people is very important. I think people were to just spend the time finding the right people that have something to do with their own business first, and then engaging them. I mean, it's remarkable the number of people who will just simply follow and not engage. And I feel like you're losing the entire point of this social tool, which is to say, "Hey, Seshu," or "Hey, Fusa, hey, tell me a little bit about your business," or "Tell me how to do this," or "Hey, can you help me with that?" Or
say thank you, right? Or reply and say thank you for the retweet.
As I just told, I just tweeted to somebody just a few seconds before we started talking, actually, to a journalist, local journalist here, and I said, "Hey, you want to grab lunch sometime?" It's all about connecting with people.
That's funny, because Lindsay Adler talked a little bit about that, about like just following, magazine editors and people, and like making it personal, not just exchanging a business card, but then like, "Hey, nice meeting you on Twitter," and like starting that relationship, so people will remember you more and more, and not just like, "Who the hell is this?"
Yeah, I think people want to connect with other people, but in the right way.
Right.
And I believe Twitter allows that. Only you've got to sort of be, sort of in check with how you're going to approach people. So.
And authentic. I have this theory that like social media, you could tell someone's energy from it. Like you could tell if somebody posted something, even if they don't say anything negative, but if they're upset or there's something about it. So I always say be authentic. Don't go in it like, what's in it for me, but how can I help others? But in a true way. If you're just saying that, but you really don't think that, it comes across like, I don't know. I've felt like energy through tweets sometimes, just like by the person, and it's funny how that can happen in 140 characters.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely. And if there's one other piece of advice I'd say is, sort of segueing with what you just said. Do be careful about what you say, though, and how you say it. I think words can be misunderstood. They could, people can take you the wrong way, and you can ruffle feathers very, very, very quickly on Twitter.
You're not going to please the world, but still be mindful that you're representing your business too.
No, but I do follow some people who are, it's black and white, for them,
Yeah.
Whatever the topic, it's black and white. There's no gray, and I love it because I can get their perspective and say, okay, that's what they think about that. Fine, let's go to the other side.
Right.
See what else is happening.
So switching gears a little bit, what about Facebook? Are you as involved? I know there's been a lot of talk now among the industry about this whole paid post kind of a thing. I have my own theories about it, but I would love to hear what you think.
I'm a reluctant Facebook user, to be honest with you. I feel like I'm using it only because I have to be on there. That's all.
Okay.
It's not I want to be on there. I mean, it's not the first thing I fire up in the morning. I don't know looking at who said what on Facebook.
Right. That's interesting because I think it's important also to narrow which social media, because it's overwhelming. Like, Spotify, Pinterest, you got to be in LinkedIn groups. You got to be like, I'm a social media hound. I think I'm overwhelmed. Like, a part of me just wants to be like, forget it all. I'm doing my own thing, and I don't care anymore. Part of me. So I think it's important for you to see, okay, what has worked? Is Twitter really best resource for me? Is it Facebook the best resource? But like, you really can't do it all unless, you're like some big studio and you have like an intern or a social media expert, whatever, working for you. So I think it's important and it's okay to be like, hey, you know what? I'm not into Facebook that much. And
I'm not into Facebook, but I do post there. And you'd ask me about the paid post business. I find it very odd that, Facebook is a business, so they've got to make money in every which way they can. So I'm not finding fault with that. But what I do find annoying about Facebook, probably the most, is the fact that they change things around, and they're just sort of like, you have no real time to react or respond or change your own strategy. Because, hey, it's their business. They're going to do their own thing.
So, my view with Facebook is the following. Like, they want us so bad to use our business page for businesses.
Yeah.
But why is it in our personal page we're getting more engagement and more viewership? And why do we have to be personally friends with somebody to tag them? So that's really confusing to me. I think overall, Facebook could be a great resource if they improve brand experience. The brand engagement sucks. The new business timeline layout for brands suck. Pictures are like just going down. Messages are going down. I think Social Examiner just did a really great article and said only 16% of what you post on your business page is really seen. So they recommend posting on the business and then sharing it on personal. So it's like a 24-hour job,
Yeah.
And my only concern with the paid thing is that if you're a little company, you don't have a lot of money to pay. So is it going to be very spammy? Is it going to be all about big companies? But, I understand advertising. You could use it for advertising. But, my biggest beef is that, like, the engagement aspects of the business pages are really a flop. Like, it's horrible right now. And I don't put all my eggs in one basket, so I'm not all about just Facebook marketing because I'm all about redirecting it back to my brand and my brand experience. And so I do use, several. But it's just interesting to me that, and I think if you have like 10,000 likes or 100 or 2 million, it might, and there we go, back to the big companies are going to win with this, but the small business, I doubt it.
This really makes me think about another tool that's out there. It's called Google Plus, right? I mean, I don't. You've even explored that, but I'm actually tempted to drop Facebook completely and just walk away from it and just go to Google Plus. Number one, the interface is gorgeous.
Right.
Number two, they are more inclined to bring me local traffic, which is what I believe we need to be working on anyway. I don't care if somebody in California likes my...
It don't matter.
Because what is the point of that? But if somebody down the road is looking for a headshot, it should be the first one to pop up.
Right.
You know,
That's the point.
it makes
I'm not big into it yet, just because I think it just feels like a photographer's club to me. I don't.
of course,
I don't feel like clients are in there, but I gain. But on the other note, like for example, my biggest wedding ever was referred from another photographer. You know, like I've actually booked a wedding because of a Twitter contact. You know, so it's like you never know where business is really coming from. But I'm just haven't dove into it because I'm like, okay, it's just photographers hanging out. What's going on? But I'm interested to see where Google Plus is going. Definitely.
Right.
Tell everyone how they could find you, so your blog, website, and all that fun stuff, or Twitter handle, since that's where you hang out most.
Right. My Twitter handle is PicSeshu. It's PICSESHU, and my website. I have several websites, but you should probably hit two of them: Seshu.net and SeshuPortraits.com. And of course, there's Tiffinbox. I lied. There's one more.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks a lot.
And I'll see you on Twitter.